I'm Dani, that witch next door, and you're listening to That Witch Podcast. Well. Hello, neighbor. Welcome to That Witch Podcast. If you've never been here before, hey, I'm Dani. I'm that witch next door, and I'm going to be your host, your guide, your mentor, and your instructor in all things magic, witchcraft, astrology, and witchy business. And if you have been here before, hello, welcome back. I'm so happy that you're joining me here again. For many of you, if you listen to Moon Day Musings this week, it doesn't feel like it's been that long since we talked, but I actually recorded that episode early last week, I believe. And so it feels like I haven't talked to you in a really long time because so much has happened in the last week for me. So if you are in that witch school or if you're on my email list, you saw that I got hit by some of life's shitstorms this last week. And it was really, really crazy and dysregulating and traumatic. And it was just a lot. So Wednesday last week, this is really crazy. So Wednesday last week, I had an insanely busy 2 weeks. And the first was because I was turning around that new, different tier level membership style of that witch school, like I had told all of you. And it just added a lot to my workload on the technical and back end of things to completely turn that launch around in 6 days or whatever it was. And then the following week, last week, I just had one of those weeks that, when this happens in your schedule, even when you have really good organization, really good structure, really good boundaries for your schedule, you just have one of those weeks where things got adjusted and moved along the way and you accidentally crazy, insanely overbooked yourself, which is totally fine because my work week, when I say I overbooked my work week, I'm talking about a 3-day span. I work from home with my daughter and my husband at home. I work on the weekends and nights sometimes. So my main work days, I only really work 3 days a week because I work so much during what are considered everybody else's off hours. And so those 3 days were insanely packed, and I needed to try and get out an episode at the same time. I had calls with multiple clients. I had calls in the school. I had, and I'm trying to create content, and I have to create and send out notes for all of these different client appointments, which just takes time, right? I love doing all these things, but they take, physical minutes on the clock. And Wednesday in particular, just toward the end of Wednesday afternoon, a lot of things had come to a head. I had knocked out a couple of amazing client sessions that day with a couple of new people that I had never met before. And we just had these great calls that day. So if you were one of the lovely people I met with on Wednesday, hi, I just absolutely loved meeting with you. It gave me so much amazing energy for that day. But then right after my last call, I tried to power all of these things out and then make it to the shadow work support group call in that witch school. And I was doing all these different back end things and tried to record an episode. I tried to record this episode. And I was able to record for 15 minutes. And I was like, I'm just going to come back after the call and finish recording. I'm going to figure this out so I can still release the episode on Tuesday. Well, I record and I'm like, man, I feel really good about that. And I look up and I fucked up my recording settings and I didn't record any of it. I just sat there and talked in the mic for 15 or 20 minutes or whatever it was. Oh my God, I was so pissed. And I just sat there like, you've got to be kidding me. And I look at the clock, it's 5 minutes until the shadow work support group call. I'm like, God, and I just wasted, I just sat there talking for no reason. I just wasted all this time. And then my mom called me with some very, very scary news. And my sister had a really severe traumatic medical emergency at my mom's house that was traumatic for both of them. And she was she was on her way to the hospital in an ambulance. And my mom was on her way there. And so that obviously, took precedence over the rest of my evening at the very least. When things started calming down later that night, around 10:30 p.m., we're overall getting good news about her. She's going to be okay. Definitely seems like we're through the worst of the storm. My daughter wakes up and there's this just terrifying sound coming from her room. And if you're a parent, like, oh my God, just the thoughts, the feelings, everything that sends through your body when you hear just a sound that is wrong, like you just know instantly is wrong. And she had that quintessential seal bark croup cough. She was having trouble breathing and trying to cough, but you can't cough. And your throat is so insanely swollen, but that's freaking her out even more. So now she starts crying, which is making the inflammation worse. And so now she's really not breathing. Oh my God, it just, it was like 2 full-blown heart attacks, essentially, in the same day. To be more accurate, I should say 2 full-blown anxiety or panic attacks in the same day. Just survival responses. And I was a kid with asthma my whole entire life, my whole entire childhood, I should say. And I, like many people, I grew out of almost all of my asthma symptoms as an adult. It only gets triggered with like the mother of all viruses if I get sick. Even COVID actually didn't trigger my asthma, but a really good cold or sinus infection, and I'm a total asthmatic again. But thank goodness, because I was the sick kid my whole entire life, because I had breathing troubles my whole entire life, I did know how to help my daughter that night, I was so grateful for. My husband slept in her bed and she slept with me in our bed. And it was just that horrible, again, if you're a parent, I know this is just resonating with you so much. It was just one of those horrible nights of like waking myself up out of fear and panic, like every hour to make sure she was breathing and okay. Because it was just, she didn't have any of the kind of symptoms that you would go to the hospital or the doctor for. It was just the first night of croup, which is just a shitty night for everybody. So I got slammed pretty hard, in like whatever that is, a 6-hour, 10-hour period or whatever. And I took all of that as, okay, universe, I guess I need to take a break for a couple of days and just do what I tell everybody to do, surrender to all of this. And when I say that, I mean like not forcing myself to feel or be anything other than what I need to feel or be in that moment, I guess. Maybe sometimes when I talk about that surrender concept, it's kind of hard to kind of visualize that, but that's what I mean. I try to just not force and not adhere, I don't adhere to a schedule for a couple days. I really just let myself be a sister who was really scared and worried and making sure that her sister was okay, and a mom who was taking care of a very sick and sad poor little girl, and as a person who had a big fucking lack of sleep due to all of this, and a person who struggles with anxiety, specifically, or most often is a better word. My anxiety is very generalized, but most triggered by health problems and like injuries and stuff. So this was an insanely triggering experience. And as you can see, I'm already laughing and coping with humor. So I'm at that stage. And I just wanted to say a huge thank you to so many people, because so many of you reached out when I posted about this in the school and in my email. And I've just really so appreciative of the love and support that I get from everybody for being a human first. And I guess it's just exactly why I will always be my exact real self with all of you, because the most beautiful reward that I get in return for that is all of you are your real, beautiful human selves with me. And that's pretty fucking special. So that's my giant personal update for today. And my life got crazy. That's why your episode is late this week. But I didn't want to skip it all the way. I almost totally skipped the episode this week. But right now, the day I'm recording this is actually Eclipse Day. Right now, I'm recording this on Tuesday, and I haven't even fully decided when I'm releasing this. So you're listening to this either on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, depending on what future me ended up deciding. But I was really excited because I love doing the pep talk episodes, and obviously I love Scorpio energy. And I didn't want to postpone it and change up the episode schedule. So I was like, you know what, we're going to still do this. We're going to still put the episode out. And there's just so much fun going on inside that witch school for all of my members, and especially for my full-time students coming up this week. There's just so much fun, cool things going on that I couldn't skip at least jumping on and talking with everybody about it this week. So for our school bulletin this week, what the haps are in that witch school, we are finishing up. I can't even believe this. Time is just not even real anymore. We're already finishing up level 2 astrology this week. We're doing our final live lesson on level 2. We're talking about the polarities in the zodiac. I love this discussion, especially through the lens of modern astrology, with the intention of evolving our language around the polarities, because the polarities have so traditionally been referred solely to masculine and feminine energy. And I just have, as I'm sure you can imagine, I just have so many opinions about this, and I'm really excited to share them with everybody and hear their thoughts and finish up level 2. That means that I will be then recording and finalizing everything for level 2 astrology to put it up on that witch shop on my website, so that you can also purchase that along with level 1 astrology. And bada bing, you've got some really awesome, totally self-paced, very useful and informative astrology courses to dive into. Now, fun stuff that we're doing in that witch school this week. So in addition to today's episode, meaning just like I didn't want to give up today's episode, I didn't want to give up the bonus episode that I had planned for that witch school this week. I originally was like, maybe I'll still find a way to get them the content. I just won't record it. I'll find a different way to like do it from the couch, basically, while I'm with my daughter. But again, it's Tuesday, it's Eclipse Day, and I am feeling really recharged and really rejuvenated and really excited to be talking to all of you. And I was like, you know what? The bonus episode lives. We're going to do it. So if you are anywhere in that witch school, next door neighbors, part-time students, full-time students, your bonus episode this week is a very fun one. Again, I was so excited that I just couldn't pass it up. I am going to be talking all about my relationship with Halloween and Samhain as a death witch, my experiences, my death craft, how I celebrate and practice around Halloween and Samhain this time of year, and my recommendations for people as well. And then I'm also going to be offering everybody, again, no matter what tier level you're on, so even starting at just $5 a month, I'm also going to be offering this little complimentary guide it complements the episode. It's a little spirit safety sheet. So, for anybody that's been getting interested in spirit communication or just wanting to understand the basics, this is going to be a really great sheet for just good old fashioned protection, magic, and energy and entity basics in general. But it's also intended to be a really great door opener for anybody that is wanting to kind of dip their toes in and learn more about this side of spirituality and witchcraft. So keep an eye out for that this week. That'll be up in the bonus episodes and in your content library. If you're a full-time student, remember, you can basically live your entire That Witch School subscription on Mighty Networks. You sign up on my website, but other than that, everything, you can really do everything on Mighty Networks because I'll always just provide you a link to whatever you need directly on Mighty Networks. And if you are a next door neighbor and a part-time student, your content lives on my website, thatwitchnextdoor.com, because everything is listed under the blog in different articles and blog posts. And that way I was able to organize things into a content library and also provide you all of those different articles and journal guides as well. So if you're not already with us, please, thatwitchnextdoor.com/enroll. Like I said, we start as low as $5 a month, and that gets you so much bonus content. $15 a month, you get all the bonus content. Plus, you get any live lesson or live event replays from That Witch School. You get to see all of the replays and get video access to that. And then, of course, my full-time student tier for $30 a month, you get absolutely an all access pass to everything. Really cheap, really affordable, really accessible. That's the whole idea. Listen to last week's episode if you missed that memo, but we would love, love, love to have you. So don't forget thatwitchnextdoor.com/enroll. The last thing that I want to remind everybody is that this week we have a very fun event, especially for full-time students. This is our first chart hot takes in That Witch School. So our wonderful and glorious prefect, Jenny SRP, she came to me with a wonderful idea to do kind of a live hot takes and use an upcoming really popular or buzzed about transit, and let's look at the transit in our students' charts live and talk about what we see and offer our interpretations. And I absolutely love this idea because this is something that I was able to do a long, long time ago. When I first started That Witch Next Door, I would kind of do little like bonus eclipse readings and stuff like that for people. And I just pour so much of my time into the podcast and my clients and so many different things now. So this was such a fun way to bring this back. This is the first of many cool hot takes and live events like this that we're going to be doing. So if you're a full-time student, the Gemini Mars retrograde chart hot takes is going to be live this Friday, October 28th at 9:30 a.m. Mountain Time. And this event is going to be recorded because not only are we going to do some interpretations and read people's charts live, but it's also going to be just honestly kind of a really awesome, almost bonus episode with Jenny and I talking about Mars retrograde. It's going to be filled with very valuable, very exciting information. So replay will be available for all full-time and part-time students. Now, lastly, for our neighbor highlight, our neighbor spotlight today. Today, everybody, I want to highlight the members of Mighty Networks. So if you're a full-time student in that witch school, you get access to Mighty Networks, like I've mentioned many, many times. And Mighty Networks is just a social media platform for anyone that's unfamiliar. It operates and functions very similarly to Facebook, except without all of the annoying posts and reposts from family members and people from high school that you don't even like. And it's with a bunch of really cool witches and practitioners. And it's in this really welcoming spiritual community where you feel understood and seen and supported and not like the crazy witch person next door. So I want to highlight our Mighty Networks members. If you have recently or in the past, if you have subscribed to be a full-time student in that witch school, you get access to Mighty Networks. If you haven't joined us on there yet, I hope that this is your reminder today. Oh yeah, I got to go back to my welcome packet email and join Mighty Networks. And make sure you download the app and turn on notifications too, so you don't miss anything, because it's getting really lively, and it's really cool how big this community is building. And oh my God, this like full-blown actual school community is unfolding before my eyes. And it is the most magical thing in the world. And when I posted last week, when shit just hit the fan and I had to just impromptu I was like, I have to take at least the next 2 days off, like totally off. I was just met with the warmest collective hug. And I want everyone to know how much I felt that, because it meant the absolute world to me. But all of my members in Mighty Networks, like, you bring such a special magic to that witch next door in general, because you are a part of our social community and you participate. And it's a really magical thing. So today we're going to shout out all of our Mighty Networks members, because moving forward, we are going to start shouting out and welcoming new members on the show during the Neighbor Spotlight. I would really love to just shout these people out, because you absolutely deserve it, because you're awesome for joining us on Mighty Networks. So in no particular order, because the list of members just kind of shuffles every time I open it up, I would just like to say the following list of people are a bunch of badass witches and practitioners, and you're amazing, and I love you, and thank you for being one of my students. So Jonathan, Kylie, Andrea, Nick, Cash, Kate M, Laura Jane, Sonia, Emily, Ashley E, Mary Sue, Kayla, Hannah, Melanie, Jenny, Aaron, Ashley H, Susan, Dani with 2 N's, Sarah with an S, Carol, Jennifer, Julie, Melinda, Jacqueline, Rachel, Jamie, Melissa, Brianna, Lunar, Sierra, Haley, Kelsey, Liz, Lauren, Katrina, Riley, Laura, Kaylee, Jessica, Sarah with a C, Holly, Katie H, Jace, Kaylee, Jamie, Megan, Marianne, Benjamin, Sage, and Lindsay. And if you're wondering, yes, I just read off all 52 members that we have right now inside that witch school. You are amazing. thank you, thank you, thank you so, so, so much for being a part of our community. I, uh, I will take 52 seconds to read out every single name every single day if I had to, because that truly, truly is how much I appreciate every last one of you. So thank you. If you want to get your name shouted out, and also join in with this badass group of individuals and get a buttload of bonus content and support and interactions with me and other amazing people and access to an actual witchy therapy shadow work support group, all for only $30 a month, you know where to go. Thatwitchnextdoor.com/enroll. It is time for the Scorpio Pep Talk. Hi, neighbor. I want to take a quick moment to thank our episode affiliate for the day, one of my favorite companies and products to date, Magic of Eye and their astrological planner. If this is not your first time in the neighborhood and you've been around for a while, you very well know how much I love and how frequently I mention this planner. It has been a part of my astrological journey pretty much since the very beginning of my studies. This planner not only has educational support like reference materials, there's basically a mini textbook at the beginning of this planner, but it also just has journey support because there's journal spaces, there's a lunar calendar, there's a transit calendar to help you learn astrology, but to actually start living very cyclically and cosmically, regardless of your experience level. This is what I love about this planner. It's very, very accessible, no matter what experience level you are with astrology. Personally, I use it for both my personal life and my business. It's an integral part of my planning and scheduling practices. Now, this year for the 2023 edition, their new theme is Astro Mycology. So, in this 280-page astrology planner, again, that is for all different experience levels, we are now getting the extra edition of mycology exploration, or the magic and healing properties of mushrooms. And this is absolutely a fascinating subject to me, as I'm sure it already is to so many of you. And the cool part is not only is there a section in the planner with different types of mushrooms and their healing properties and benefits, but they also have an exploration on astrology to fungi connection, which I think is so cool. Get yours today and support That Witch podcast by ordering yours at the link in the show notes below. Scorpio, Scorpio, Scorpio. You know, I wonder, I'm genuinely curious what each of you would think the Scorpio Pep Talk is going to be about, or what it should be about, because this is an extremely misunderstood one. All of the signs can be misunderstood, which I think says a lot about everything, us, and the universe. We all experience that, don't we? Being misunderstood, misjudged, mislabeled. Maybe it happens because someone judges photos that you post on Instagram. Maybe they judge by the type of house or place that you live, how much money you make, the kind of job that you have. Maybe it's because you have kids. Maybe it's specifically because you don't. I never really thought about it till just now. But what a universally shared experience, isn't it? Being misunderstood. I've said this a lot on my show, to clients, in all of my content. So this probably won't be the first time you've heard this, but Scorpio is, in my opinion, one of, if not the most non-judgmental sign of the zodiac. And this idea first really truly solidified for me when I first started working with and learning about Hades. So Hades in Greek mythology, god of the underworld, his equivalent in Roman mythology is Pluto, which is what our planet, Pluto, is named after. And so there are tons and tons and tons of symbolism and spiritual connection there. And when I was learning about Hades worship and how people work with this energy, to work with any deity, you have to do extensive research on their mythology and folklore and their background, because that is the research that we have on deities. We don't have studies, we have folklore and we have stories. We don't have any studies. We have studies. We have stories. We have folklore. We have mythology, legends. And Hades is, in my opinion, like one of the, and this is, again, my humble opinion, one of the most misunderstood deities. And that's through my extensive research and how I interpreted all of it. The bottom line is, regardless of your opinion around this figure, I think we can all agree that there is a lot of information out there about him, from so many different viewpoints. When you look at Zeus, when you look at Hera, when you look at Persephone, when you look at Aphrodite, when you look at Apollo, when you look at Helios, we really approach most of these deities from an overall relatively universal place. It's typically an overall very collectively shared opinion. And then you get to Hades and like shit hits the fan. Then you get to Pluto and shit hits the fan. And I was reading about how Hades came to be god of the underworld. And just like in all mythology, there are hundreds of versions and retellings of the same story. But one version, or a collection of versions, adhere to the idea that Hades is actually the only god capable of being the god of the underworld, because this ruler has to decide where all beings go after they die, not just humans, but gods and other immortals that have lost their life or are now condemned to the underworld for one reason or another, right? From these experiences, from these choices made during life up above the surface, up on earth, or higher or different realms, right? This was fascinating to me that, number one, part of the symbol of this is that no matter what, we all end at the same place, even if there are different sections and categories. How interesting. In some way, shape, or form, that must mean we all come from the same place, right? So, number one, that's just interesting. But Hades, they said, was the only god capable of being the god of the underworld because he was the most just god. He was the only god capable enough of actually balancing true emotion and true logic to be able to pass an accurate and fair judgment, person to person, entity to entity, experience to experience, right? Scenario to scenario. A lot of Hades followers and patrons believe that this symbolizes that Hades work, and therefore much of the work of the Scorpio journey, right? Because Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio. the reason that this most just God exists and the way that this came to be is because Hades has the knowledge of the entire universe, the full spectrum of emotions and logic. Hades understands and takes the responsibility, because it is hard work to do this, takes the responsibility to take every single scenario that comes across his plate, listen to all of the details, take all of his own knowledge, his own thoughts, his own emotions, and pass this fair judgment. Zeus, control emotions, not really something Zeus does. So when we look at Jupiter, which is Zeus's equivalent, we don't see as much of this kind of work, right? We in Jupiter work, we see a lot of expansion. We can see a lot of, or in a different light, a lot of blowing up, right? This was very characteristic of Zeus. Many of the gods and goddesses did not, at the very least, exercise this ability, let alone had the capacity for it. And so over time, my understanding of Scorpio energy became that Scorpio teaches us those Hades or Plutonian qualities and abilities. We experience extremes. Extreme pleasure, extreme pain and anguish. It's not about every time something good happens, that must mean something equally bad is going to happen. That's called anxiety. That's called a fear mindset. A different way of looking about that is the fact that this kind of pain and anguish even exist must mean that the equal and opposite kind of beauty and glory and love must also then exist. This spectrum work also teaches us that if we want to truly experience the full spectrum, if we chased the highest of highs, if we chase the biggest ecstasy that we can possibly imagine, it would make sense that the equal and opposite form of anguish exists in our lives as well. And maybe, just maybe, take it from a very blunt, morbid Scorpio here. Maybe, just maybe, the way that we actually are even able to fully experience and therefore appreciate the highest of ecstasies and pleasure and appreciation is when we also allow ourselves to surrender to our darkest emotions and let us feel the full hurt, the full anger, the full sadness. The kind of intimacy that Scorpio truly, truly grants us with requires some of, if not the most deepest and raw versions of our vulnerability in order to even unlock it, even to access it. And I think this is a big reason why I started out, now that I'm channeling all this and hearing myself say all this, like maybe this is why we started out talking about surrender today. Because I think that when we talk about letting ourselves feel and let go into those dark emotions, we get scared. And we're like, but what is gonna happen if I do that? And the truth is, my friend, most of us, and I mean a high tippy top most, vast, vast, vast majority of all human beings in existence to this day were not actually given safe space to experience and feel and surrender to the full spectrum of their emotions. Because the people around them also responded to the same fear that they had been responded to and they had been responded to. It's been going on for, oh my God, an insane, as long as it's long. It's a long, long time throughout history. It is a long time. And really, we can only even start to make guesses once you start getting far enough back in history to understand the nuances of parenting styles in ancient culture and ancient history. But the point is that for so long, there has been a big cap, a big suppression on our dark feelings. That's shadow work, by the way. And this is why your shadow lashes out the way that it does, because it's been shut up and suppressed and quieted and silenced and shamed for so long. When I have found in my work, in my Scorpio work, in my Hades work, in my shadow work, this is why I talk and teach so much about surrender. It's why I use the term so much, because I have found that when I really do just let go into the feeling, into the wave, and that wave might be an actual tsunami for you. I find that when I give myself actual safe space to do that, nothing bad happens. I wasn't a danger to anybody. I wasn't a danger to myself. Then that wasn't safe space. That's the difference. That safe space looks so incredibly different for each of us. I can't really paint that picture for you. But I am apparently very much receiving this message right now. So I guess apparently I'm going to share with you what this looks like for me, because you know what? We don't fucking talk about this enough. And if I can set the example and cause that ripple effect, fuck it. I'm going to bare my soul a little bit here with you. As most of you know, I have ADHD. That's confirmed. I've never really been evaluated on a holistic level. I'm the only and first person in my family to get evaluated for anything psychologically related at all, or neurologically related at all, outside of physical brain health, like migraines or seizures. You know what I mean? That kind of, we were there. People will seek out that kind of help in my family, but not psychological brain health. And one thing that I've definitely learned about myself as well is I definitely have sensory processing issues as well. And I can be very overstimulated very easily by things that are very normal and not triggering or overstimulating at all to other people, including people in my household. So sometimes I'm a lone wolf getting super triggered and overstimulated by all my senses. But I experience what are called meltdowns. And I only recently started admitting to this to myself this year through therapy work, through learning about ADHD and learning about, I've also just been really educating myself about the spectrum as well, the autism spectrum as well, because there's a lot of crossover and you can actually learn a lot about ADHD and autism when you kind of study both of them. And if you really want to go down a rabbit hole, I also like learning about the personality spectrum as well. Very, very, very interesting. I have these meltdowns. And they've happened since I was a kid. And I learned to do them in private. and I do still do them in private. I've had them around my husband, I think maybe 2 or 3 times in our relationship. Maybe 3 or 4 times. We've been together for a long time. Outside of that, nobody's ever seen a meltdown. I would imagine in my very, very young years, my parents saw them and probably labeled them as tantrums. I don't know, because my memory doesn't go back that far, because this is seriously how long it's been since I started doing this alone. This was one of the first ways I learned to suppress my emotions. And essentially what happens is it's a buildup of things, typically both externally and internally. To be more accurate, it's a series of external factors that create a chain of events internally that eventually topple over or spill over into a full-fledged meltdown. And here's the vulnerable part. I've learned to stop getting mad at myself when this happens, because that's clearly what happened when I was a little girl by any caregiver, I would assume, whether it was at daycare or my house. Because it's what we do for little kids, okay? This is what we do. I am not a special case, okay? This is so common. But these tantrums, as they were labeled when we were kids, inevitably carry over into adulthood, whether you're neurodivergent or not. But a meltdown for me could be a totally different version of something in your life. When things topple or spill over, whatever that response is to that emotional break, that's your version of a meltdown. And it could be going shopping. It could be using drugs. It could be losing it on somebody. It could be being a psychotic driver. It could be like, there are so many things. For me, I have to be alone immediately, and I angry cry and ugly cry, like full blown sobbing. But unless I'm like home alone and no one's in the house, I try to cry into a pillow. Like I cannot have anybody hear me. And I'm working on that shame part. But I have to like full blown curl up. I have to like go in the bathroom and sit on the toilet and like curl over to my knees, or sit on my bed and curl over to my knees. And I have to plug my ears and close my eyes. It's better if I'm like wearing a hoodie even, and curl over. I need to feel like I'm like in a hole, like this tight, tiny hole. And I just lose it and let go. And, you know, in earlier and younger years of my life and teenagehood and adolescence, I would like pull my hair a lot or like scratch myself. Like, again, this was not safe space I was giving myself. And it wasn't safe because when I would do that, I would be so mean to myself about it. I'd be so harsh. What the fuck is wrong with me? What the fuck is wrong with me? Over and over and over again. There's nothing wrong with me, and there's nothing wrong with you. We are born, all of us, with each of us our own unique spectrum of emotions, and we all experience them in this totally individual yet collectively connected way that none of us are taught fucking shit about at all, let alone how to regulate them. And the truth is, and this is where Hades, Pluto, Scorpio comes in, it is a wave. It is not forever. It is a big feeling giant thing that comes in and it will leave. It is never permanent. No feelings are permanent. They are constantly ebbing and flowing. And so now I've learned, right, to put on that hoodie or to put on sunglasses, to go away by myself, because right now that's the safest for me. I'm not comfortable being around even a trusted person yet, because I'm still working through the shame part, and that's okay. That is still an act of me being gentle and compassionate with myself. And I go let those emotions go however I need to. And I curl up in the ball and I cry. And I don't care if my face looks ugly. And I don't care the weird sound I'm making in the pillow or whatever it is. I don't care if I'm like drooling on the pillow or if I have snot coming. I don't care. I don't care if it's messy and ugly and weird and loud and uncomfortable for anybody else. That's not what it is for. That's not surrender. Surrender to me is meeting yourself with true patience and compassion that you deserve. You deserve that. Whether you're a parent or not, I know that everybody listening to this has at least one person in their life that they care about. And I want you to talk to yourself the way that you would talk to that person and meet yourself with that compassion in that moment. Because again, you're not going to be there forever. It's not going to have to be forever. All you need to do is hold down the fort for just a little while the storm passes. And you can do it. Some of the best advice I'm going to leave you with today that I learned recently in my parenting journey, actually, one of my favorite parenting coaches that I'll actually link, sorry, I had to write it down, is Destini Ann on Instagram. And she's a parenting coach and she is fucking amazing. I bought her book. I follow her everywhere. I love her. I'm determined to go to one of her classes, like buy tickets to one of her classes soon. I just absolutely love her. And I use a lot of her techniques for myself in parenting, but actually with a lot of my clients, when we talk about inner child work and reprogramming and reparenting ourselves. And one thing that she shared really recently about responding to a child with big feelings, whether that, again, is an actual child in your life or yourself, but responding, I'm going to rephrase it for our episode, for our intents and purposes right now, responding to a person with big feelings. A phrase that she used that I am implementing fucking all over the place for myself and my daughter and my loved ones now is, I know this is hard and I know you can handle it. I know that these feelings are hard. I know that they're big. I know that they're challenging. I know that they don't feel good. And I know you can stand there with yourself through this storm. I know you can give yourself safe space. I know that you can. And I hope that my vulnerability and transparency with you here in this entire fucking episode today inspires you to do the same thing in your life. That if you want to experience that deep, true intimacy that life has to offer with other people, within yourself, within your craft, within your spirituality, it's going to require this big, equally scary and raw level of vulnerability. And if I can do it, and over 1,000 people are going to listen to this episode in a couple of days, then you can do it. Okay? I hope that this episode was what you needed today, even if it wasn't what you thought you were going to get today. I just love and appreciate every single one of you so much. And I'm always, always, always hoping for and sending my absolute best to all of you. Thank you for your time today and every day. And I'll see you soon in the next episode. Happy Halloween. Hi, neighbor. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of That Witch Podcast. If you want to support the show and get your hands on some really magical goodies, make sure you check out some of the awesome companies that I'm an affiliate for in the show notes below. You can also leave a 5-star rating and review on iTunes as well as Spotify now. And really the best way to support That Witch Podcast is just by sharing the show online, like your social media platforms, or telling a friend that you think would enjoy it. If you're looking for more magical content like bonus episodes, classes I teach, and support in your witchcraft, make sure you come check us out in That Witch School, my magical monthly membership with a very welcoming private online community. And don't forget to subscribe to my email list for weekly astro forecasts, journal prompts, and more, and stay up to date with all of the happenings here in the neighborhood.